Okay, Mr. Davis, could you please give me your full name as it is recorded on your birth certificate?
Teddy Faye Davis.
Okay. Do you currently, or have you ever had a nickname?
No.
No? Okay. Where were you born and raised, sir?
I was born in Meadowbrook, West Virginia, and I was raised in Clarksburg.
Okay, all right. What did your parents do for a living?
My father was a coal miner.
Okay, all right. Was your father or any uncles or anything ever involved in the military?
Yes, my father was in World War I.
Okay, all right. Do you think that influenced your growing up at all? Did he talk about that at all, or
Never did.
Okay, all right. Where did you attend school, sir?
I went to school in Clarksburg.
In Clarksburg? Okay, all right. Can you describe anything about your childhood growing up in Clarksburg?
Not really. I never was in trouble or anything like that as a child growing up.
Okay.
But nothing spectacular that I think is really important, you know.
Okay, all right. Did you have any jobs before entering the military?
Yes. Before I went in the military, I worked for the Chickasaw Wood Product Company. They made barrel staves, oil barrels for the war.
Oh, I see. Okay. How old would you have been at that time?
I would have been 20 years old.
Okay. Have you always lived in the West Virginia area, other than when you left for the?
Well, no, after, or in 1990, I lived in Arizona for 7 years.
Okay.
So I moved back here in 96.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is there a reason that you moved back?
Yeah, cost of living.
Cost of living was lower here, and.
Oh, yeah.
All right. You said you were drafted? Can you describe what your basic training was like?
Well, I can tell you that my basic training was in Camp Van Dorn, Mississippi.
Okay.
Then maneuvers was, after maneuvers, I was in Camp Maxey, Texas.
Okay.
After Camp Maxey, Texas, I was put on a train and sent to Fort Miles Standish, Massachusetts. There I was shipped out for overseas.
I see. Okay. Is there anything that you remember about basic or anything during those events anything you'd like to describe?
Not really. The only, in Camp Maxey, Texas, I did take commando training. And that gave me, after I completed the commando training, if I remember correctly, I got a combat infantryman's badge just for taking commando training, which gave me, I think, maybe $5 or $10 more pay a month.
Okay. All right. Could you hold on just 1 second, sir?
Yes. You're not having the bunch that I thought you would have.
Well, as the day goes on, I think
Yeah.
more people will show up. Do you have any opinion of your officers that you'd like to stress at all?
Not really. Most of our officers were excellent officers.
Okay. All right. You said you were in the Army. Do you have any opinion of that branch of service or any other branch of service at all?
No, I'm strictly an Army man.
Uh-huh.
I have to stay with that.
Okay. Would you have, if you would have been allowed to choose your branch of service, do you think you would have chose the Army?
I would.
Okay. All right. What was your job in the military?
Combat infantryman soldier.
Uh-huh.
I was a BAR man.
Uh-huh.
That's how I went overseas, and that's how I ended up. Do you want any combat experience or anything?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you want to share, sir.
All right. I shipped out from Fort Miles, Standish, Massachusetts,
Uh-huh.
with an armada of a lot of ships. And there they ran into some wolf packs and they sank a lot of our supply ships. So we landed at Bridgeport, England.
Okay.
I spent a couple of weeks in Bridgeport, England till we got supplies. We got on barges where I landed at Le Havre, France.
Uh-huh.
We shuttled and walked through Belgium, France. I wound up in the Ardennes Forest. That would be sometime, I believe, in November. We relieved the 9th Infantry Division,
In November of which year?
44.
44. Okay.
And December the 16th, 1945, the Battle of the Bulge started. About 3:30 in the morning, they started shelling. The assault came about 6:30. We were dug in pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I might add that if you have an automatic weapon and the first time you fire, you become a target.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I held my position till about 12:30. They put a mortar shell in my foxhole. When I came to, I was a prisoner of war.
Mm-hmm.
I had 50-some pieces of shrapnel in my body, from my head to my feet. They put me in a German hospital after I remember some of the stuff on the way to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be interested in that?
Sure. Whatever you want to share, sir.
Well, they put me in a truck that same night, along about midnight, they carried me out to a dirt road. And they put me in a truck with some American prisoners and some wounded German soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
The convoy that I was in, everybody jumps out and runs. I couldn't. I lay there, I see the bullets coming through the tops of the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to lay. But anyhow, the next morning, they put me in somewhere in a farmhouse. These places, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the farmhouse about 2 days. Then they put me in a truck and they took me into Bonn, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I laid on the street in Bonn, Germany, right beside the road, tanks this close to running by. Sometime in the day, they took me into, might have been an old schoolhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Laid me on the floor on a stretcher. The place was full of wounded people. For some reason or other, I remember no more of what happened. I don't know how I got out of there. But anyhow, I woke up. I was in a German hospital. And they had bandaged me up. I looked like a mummy.
Mm-hmm.
They did not have cloth or gauze. What they bandaged me with was like crepe paper.
Mm-hmm.
But that morning, a German officer come through and he said, "Your name?" I heard him coming running up. I said, "Teddy Davis." He said, American soldier? I said, yes. He called him Ralston. So they took me out of the hospital, stood me on the street. Some guards came. I'm just in the bandages, snow flying. Took me around behind the hospital to a tool shed. They put me in that tool shed. In there was about a dozen other POWs, some badly wounded. That night, a lieutenant passed away. So these guys took his clothes, his coveralls off. He was in the Air Force. And they put them on me. I was taller than him, so they cut him in two, so part of my body was still naked, you know. From there, they put us on a train. Every time the train moves, night or day, either Army or British would strafe the train. There was 32 men to a small boxcar. Some of these people would be killed and wounded. I was on the train for 3 days, no food or water. On the third morning, they stopped the train, and there was a bridge. Just right off of the bridge, when I got out of the boxcar, I got some water out of this stream. I'm still badly wounded, and I had a couple sticks I used for crutches. So this marches up over a hill. The next evening, or that evening, they put us in a dairy barn right in the edge of a town. I could hear the war coming closer. The next morning, the 3rd Armored Division came into this town, liberated all these prisoners. There was probably 5,000 there. They liberated all these prisoners, and the medics started examining them. When they examined me, I'm running a high fever, I'm in pretty bad shape. So the same day, they put me on a DC-7, flew me to the 193rd General Hospital in Verdun, France. I spent 3 months in this hospital. Then Eisenhower came in there, this general then, and he said, this place will be, I was discharged from the hospital and went to Cap Lucky Strike, France. That's where Eisenhower came in. And he said, this camp will be vacant this evening. You have a choice. You can go to Paris, or you can get on a ship to go home. So I took the trip to Paris. I spent a couple weeks in Paris. Then I went to the Sergeant Major. I transferred from Paris to London. After so much time in London, I decided to go home. So they sent me back to, I'm not sure, but I think it was somewhere in England on the coast to get on a ship. I got on the ship. The same people that I was in camp with had been on this ship because they didn't have a load. So I landed at Fort News, Virginia, or Newport News, Virginia. 2 days in camp there. They gave me a 103-day furlough. I came home. At the end of my furlough, I had 2 weeks recuperation in Miami Beach, Florida, where there they issued my Purple Heart and my medals. Back to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, where I was discharged in November 1945.
Okay. So, how many, what recollection you have, how many days were you a prisoner of war, do you think?
From the 16th of December to the 29th day of March.
Okay. During that time, do you remember any sort of, was you given any sort of medicines or anything like that?
No, only that trip in the hospital.
Uh-huh.
That was it. Food, well, I had potato peeling soup a few times. Black bread, I have no idea what it was, but rations were terrible. I lost almost all my weight. When I went to the 193rd General Hospital, I weighed 79 or 80 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
There, they put us on rations. You could order anything you wanted to eat any time of day or night. They gave me juices like quarter tomato juice, quarter orange juice by my bed at all times.
Mm-hmm.
You could drink. I gained about a pound a day for what time I was in there.
I see. Okay. After getting back to the States, was there additional treatment that was provided to you here at the States? Medical treatment or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I believe it was in first, I crippled because I had busted my ankle,
Mm-hmm.
and my body was stiff from all the shrapnel in my body.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, they had a thing, if I remember correctly, they called it 5220. They gave you $52 for 20 months or $20 for 52 months, I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
which it was. But after that, I went to work. After this happened,
Mm-hmm.
I saw a guy digging a ditch up on Lowndes Hill. I stopped and asked him if he needed some help. I worked for the guy for 13 years. I wound up foreman on that job.
Uh-huh.
Then I transferred and went to work for Craig Motor. I worked the next 23 years for Craig Motor. I retired from Craig Motor.
Okay, where was Craig Motors located?
Clarksburg, well, they had stores in 4 states.
Mm-hmm.
Fairmont, Morgantown, everywhere. And I was maintenance supervisor. I took care of all the states.
Well, I see. Okay. Since your time in the military, have you remained active at all in any organizations or?
Well, I am still a member of all the organizations.
Uh-huh.
I'm a lifetime member of all of them.
Uh-huh.
I'm past state commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still in the Purple Heart,
Okay.
Chapter 697 in Weston.
During your time as a prisoner of war, were you able to develop any sort of friendships with any of the other, fellow soldiers that were with you?
No, it's so many of them. You'd be with one person at night, and the
Yes.
next morning he would probably be dead.
Mm-hmm.
They would call you out every morning. We had to go out and stand in line until they counted everybody. Then they would go inside, count the dead people,
Mm-hmm.
and remove them and put us back in.
I see.
This was a daily routine. I was in Stella 6.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, do you have any advice that you would like to give to individuals that are possibly serving in the military now, or maybe deployed, or?
No advice, but I would say that I believe everybody should spend a little bit of time in the military for disciplinary purposes only.
Mm-hmm.
I think the world needs discipline.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The kids today, anyhow.
Yes, yes. Okay. Well, how about the VA services? Have you been able to take advantage of that?
Excellent.
Okay.
I've been going to the VA in Clarksburg since 1946.
Okay. And you've been very happy?
Exactly. Well, back in the 50s, that hospital was not much.
Uh-huh.
But now, I would say I would rate it the best in the country.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else you would like to add at all?
Not really. It's just I am not disappointed that I was drafted or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
I just don't know why I'm still alive.
Uh-huh. Well, you've really been through a lot. Well, I'd like to really thank you for participating in the project, and I especially want to thank you for your service to your country, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be, at 90 years old, I'm glad to be tromping around.
Yes.